The former governor of Anambra State and the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, is believed by some to be a good speaker, while other people said that he is not a good speaker. Is he a good speaker? Is he a bad speaker? Let me analyze that. So he delivered his presentation on the platform in 2016, and it was all about developing Nigeria. What are some of the great points or some of the things that we can all learn from Peter Obi's presentation, the good parts? Number one, he started with a humor.
I'm sure if you're in my position, you'll be feeling so bad standing here that everything is being said about politicians and I'm the only politician here.
So when he came up to the stage, he began with a humor by saying, I don't know if this is a place where politicians run into trouble, because he believed to be one of the few politicians that were around at that particular program. So the first thing was his sense of humor. The second thing was his use of statistics and research. Statistics and research are good for communicating your point because they show that you've done your background work and that what you're talking about is not just your opinion or limited to your perspective, but are things that have been researched and found to be truthful and factual.
Half of the year, they use 51% to service to the debt, and they are borrowing more.
3. Comparative illustration. You can see how Peter Obi takes countries and compare them to other countries, or take companies and compare them to other companies. In public speaking and in communication generally, this is very important because we understand things through comparative comparison.
When I came to office, my first 4 trips to Abuja, I traveled with over 30 people.
Jesus is Lord.
The fourth point is his use of personal stories. When you watch the presentation, you see how he uses his personal stories to talk about his experience and expertise, and more importantly, to drive the message home, giving the impression that he understands what he's talking about and he has done what he's asking the people to do, or what he believes is the right thing to be done. For instance, he talked about when he came to office and had to travel to Abuja with over 30 personnel. And then at a point he had to cut that down because of his belief in cutting down the cost of governance. This is a typical personal story that is suitable for driving your presentation home. So what could be wrong with Mr. Peter Obi's presentation? Well, there are a couple of things as a professional coach that I would like Mr. Peter Obi to work on. One of such is when he mentioned your country. Whenever he wants to talk about Nigeria, he uses the word your country.
This year, your country is expected.
In public speaking, there is what we call repulsive language. A repulsive language is a language that does not include the speaker, but gives the impression that the speaker is not a part of the problem. Now, the problem with speaking this way is that by excluding yourself, you create people who feel that you should also be part of what you're talking about. If Mr. Peter Obi is a Nigerian, then he should say our country, not your country. Another thing that Mr. Peter Obi could possibly and probably work on is his overly reliance on memory. Memory is great, and I can testify that he is very good with his memory. However, sometimes you just can't get it right. Sometimes the memory don't serve us right. I would recommend that he uses notes and other memory aiding tools to help him recall information, because he may forget the actual statistics, and that could lead to lying on a national television.
However, Japan have the highest net asset of any country in the world. They have 1.3 trillion in US bonds and dollar bonds and everything. So they have money, so they can afford to borrow.
So here are my final recommendations on the 5 things we can learn from Mr. Peter Obi's presentation skills. Use paper to aid memory. By using paper, you support your memory and you make sure that whatever figures or statistics that you are bringing out there are truthful and they're correct. Number 2, use inclusive language. Learn to say we, us, we as a people, we as Nigerians, and not you Nigerians, not your country. It is our country. Number 3, Use of statistics and research is recommended for speakers because every time you use statistics, you show that you've done your background work and you also show that what you have is fact and not just based on your opinion.
Greeks have 180% because they didn't have money, they collapsed because there was no savings. And that is the crisis.
Use personal stories to drive your presentation home. By using personal stories, you make listening to your presentation even more interesting because people love to hear how you've been able to implement some of the things that you'll be speaking about. Finally, when you can, use divergent perspective. By using perspectives that are not common, you draw the audience to yourself and you make your presentation tweetable, shareable, and fun.
You only you waka come.